Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. And we are voted the #1 sports show in the universe, Big C, according to Big C and his good old boy voters down south. No hanging chads, Big C. Also, we are broadcasting on iHeartRadio, the #1 media company in the United States. Again, no hanging chads, Big C. That means we're undisputed. For you good old boys, that means that no one can challenge what we're saying down south, Big C. Also, I wanted to say this today is a beautiful October the 17th, 2017. Want to say bienvenidos to all of our good old boys listening in Latin America, as well as thank you out there in the great land of the free home of the brave of the United States. But I also want to go across the pond and say thank you to London, England, as well as Paris, France, and of course, I'm so afraid when I say this, Big Speed, but I just got off probation, but I'm going to give it one more try. Donald Trump, please don't do the stop and frisk. Oh, Canada. I can't.
Donald Trump wants to put a border up, y'all. So I guess he wants to put a border between us and Canada also.
Oh, my God. I think the good old boys in Canada want to stop me from singing the national anthem, so I'm going to keep working, Big C. I might have to go on another probation. But just like Tom Brady, when he came out of that probation, Big C, he lit it up for the New England Patriots. And I also want to say thank you to everyone in the United States for listening to Charlton and Big C Sports. We love what we do. Of course, we call it Real Talk, Big C, but how's it going for you good old boys down south of Big C?
It's going beautiful down here, Charlton. A beautiful evening for an adult beverage. It's clear, looks like water. We can put it in a bottle and people don't know we're drinking and stuff, you know.
That's funny, Big C.
Just don't have a relaxing evening and enjoy the show.
Nothing wrong with that. And speaking of enjoying the show, I was just downtown today at the Sacramento, the Golden One Center, the beautiful arena, built $540 million in downtown Sacramento. But Big C, I don't know if they realize that they're going to schedule some good old boys down south. They have a bunny rabbit outside of the stadium, Big C. But it's a glass bunny rabbit. You know, I know you guys shoot first and then talk second, Big C, down south. It's an $8 million glass bunny rabbit at the Golden One Center. Some artists from New York got the work done. I think it's a waste of money, and I know people love art, Big C, but if you saw a pink and purple bunny rabbit, Big C, what would you good old boys do to that thing?
Well, you know, Charlton, we're going to have a sip, make sure that our eyesight is straight.
That's funny.
And then we're going to warm up some grease.
That's so funny. But anyway, I know when you come into Sacramento International Airport, they have a red bunny rabbit coming through the airport, but the one outside the Golden One Center, my goodness, $8 million doesn't buy a lot nowadays, Big C. But I want to also say there's so much happening in the world of sports. I was just by the Sacramento Kings looking at their regular season schedule, and they have the game October 26th starts at Phoenix at 7 p.m. And then October 27th, they have the San Antonio Spurs in Minnesota, and then they're on the road at Atlanta to close out October. But their pricing, you got to go in the Ticketmaster for their pricing because there's not one set price for all of their games. It depends on who's going to come in, who has the better winning record. I just think to the Kings organization, you should have a winning record before you start having different price charts, Big C. Just your thoughts on that? Teams that don't make the playoffs, their prices are different?
Well, when you look at the demands of what some of these teams are putting out, it's like the Cubs fan who paid $78,000 for 4 tickets for Game 5 of the World Series if the Cubs makes it on StubHub.
Yeah.
You know, these teams that are not giving a finished product to the public should be a little more concerned about what they're charging the public.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost not fair. You know, you sit there and you ask for these type of demands. And, you know, you don't win but 30 games a year.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too when I said, what are the prices for the tickets? You know, just for the fans to talk about on the show. And he said, it depends on who's coming into town. I'm thinking, no, what about your regular prices for the Kings, the people that want to buy tickets here? And he said it depends on what the winning record is of the team coming in. I just thought that's a joke for the fans. But I know we all love sports, and I'm a big sports nut too. But speaking of baseball, you good old boys, I know you love Alabama football. But when we talk about Major League Baseball, I'm so impressed with Clayton Kershaw. I know he's the closer. He's a closeout pitcher for the Dodgers. Whenever they need someone to come on and shut down a game, you think about him. You think about some of the guys in the past, Nolan Ryan, Catfish Hunter, Dave Stewart, some of those good old boys. But I think about Clayton Kershaw. He's never been a big performer in the playoffs, Big C, until recently. Your thoughts on Clayton Kershaw?
Well, Charlton, right now he's the most dominant pitcher in the playoffs. And when you think about the Dodgers. They won 5 games in the playoffs this year, okay?
Yeah.
5 games. Every one of those games, Curtin Kershaw has pitched in. So he's accountable for the Dodgers having 5 victories here in the postseason. And that's unheard of, with the minimum amount of games that they played. They beat the Senators. Yeah. Well, the Nationals.
Yeah, the Nationals.
Call them the Senators. When all the kids, they were the Senators.
Exactly.
and now he's come here and shut down the Cubs, the most powerful team in baseball this year. But this is a phenomenon what you're getting from Curtin Kershaw. Yeah. Just the command that he has on the mound and understanding he and his catch working in such cohesiveness together, Charlton. Yeah. It's just for the baseball purists, it's just a wonderful thing. And I look at all those naysayers that didn't think that he would come in the final game to close out, against the Nationals. And he came in and dominated that final inning, Charlton. Yeah. He's just a fantastic pitcher.
Well, he even told his manager when he was coming to the mound to pull him out, he said, no, I want to go. I have confidence I can get this guy. And, he actually stepped it up. There was almost a home run hit off of him, which was a kind of scary moment for him. But I'm really impressed. It's nice to see him do well for the Dodgers organization. When you think about the Dodgers, you always think about the great Tommy Lasorda. But isn't it ironic that Vin Scully's not going to broadcast the playoffs this year? And this might be the year that the Dodgers win the World Series. That's something that should not happen. I know he probably won't do it. But wouldn't you love to see Scully come back just for the NLCS at least, Big C?
Well, it would be nice, but Charlton, I think that he's really enjoying sitting back, taking the game in as a viewer. Yeah. He spent so many years analyzing and explaining the game to everybody. Now he gets to take that breath, lean back, have a cold one, and enjoy the game like a fan, Charlton.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And speaking of a fan, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive it, tell them you want the one that Big C drives, but also tell them Charlton and Big C's in it. So, Big C, what happens? I understand that you got to laugh at this thing that I just saw today, downtown by Golden One Center, okay? I saw this Cadillac Escalade, Big C. It was all muddy. It wasn't the same color that you had, Big C, but I think your trend is catching on. I saw Julio Jones. He was covered by Sherman up in Seattle, and then I see the Escalades and Firestone tires. There's a lot of mud being thrown all over the country, Big C. Were you out in Sacramento at all, Big C, today?
Well, no, I missed that part of the country. That left coast, you guys got all that legal stuff out there that you can smoke and everything, and I try to avoid that just in case I have to go to the doctor.
Yeah, no, they don't smoke that in California, Big C. That's in Colorado. They both start with a C, but it is Colorado, Big C. And also, I just want to get your thoughts on the NFL had a great, game of football playing over the last week. I think we only lost 2 games, Big C. I know we don't bet. You good old boys don't bet anyway. But we had...
We don't bet.
Okay, that's like wager. There's a way that it's semantics, I understand, Big C. But I just want to get your thoughts. We'll start out west with the 49ers going up to Buffalo, playing against the Buffalo Bills in a windy game. But Colin Kaepernick got on his first start of the season. I actually thought he played very well, especially in the first half. He's the kind of player that kept the ball moving. He was in the pocket for about 3 seconds on average doing his checkoff. Had a couple of drop passes, but he still wrestled over 66 yards and threw for almost 200 yards, Big C, with no interceptions and a touchdown, Big C. Your thoughts on Colin Kaepernick?
Well, Charlton, the most iconic thing I see about that scenario is if you compare him to some other starters around the league this past weekend, you're looking at Andy Dalton in Cincinnati, you're looking at Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, Charlton. Yeah. You look up and down the list, you're looking at Carson Wentz in Philadelphia. There's several quarterbacks throughout the NFL. When you come out of the weekend, Colin Kaepernick had the 8th highest QBR rating of all the quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah. In his first game, his 8th highest QBR rating. But people are labeling him with the 49ers loss. Now, the last time I checked, he played quarterback. I didn't remember him playing defensive linebacker or secondary that was giving up 45 points to the Buffalo Bills. Yeah. So, and an offensive line is really inept in San Francisco. They really showed that with Colin Kaepernick not having much time sitting in the pocket. Everyone knew he was going to get the blame because of his stance on the national anthem. Yeah. And, improprieties that go on socially in the United States. And people, all they have to do is look around, ask somebody that you know, even somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
How is life in the United States for them? It's easy when you're not targeted as a culture to take that stance that everything is okay. And you know, the United States, the whole country, even the world should watch this documentary. It's on Netflix, Charlton.
Was that 13?
13.
Oh, yeah.
You introduced me to it.
Yeah.
And it is riveting.
Yeah.
To understand where our society went to in America to get back to where America started at.
Yeah.
And that's what this documentary is all about. It's very true. There's no fiction in there. It's all accurate. And people need to see that, and then you will understand why Colin Kaepernick has taken his stance as well as many other Americans, Charlton.
Yeah.
The problem with this is that our political leaders, over time, over the last 40 years in America, have set this up, and even longer.
Yeah.
They set this up. They passed laws to make it legal for these things to happen against minorities.
Yeah.
And minorities don't stand a chance because of Congress and the Senate and even the White House over the decades have created this problem for America.
Yeah,
because of voodoo economics through the prison system.
Yeah, and I think for, you know, sometimes you have people who are just not well-read. They don't read. They just watch, like, Fox News, and they just react to what's on Fox News. But in the whole world of sports, I mean, this is what can bring our country together. It's always going to be a bit painful, Big C, when you open someone's mind. But
you just spoke about Fox News.
Yeah.
Think about the anarchy that Fox Sports did the other day.
Yeah.
Cropping Sam Bradford's head on Teddy Bridgewater's body.
Yeah.
Was that not a racial slur in that behalf?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about all the photographs
Native American and African American
playing and not playing.
Yeah.
Throughout his history and career in college and professional football. But you take Sam Bradford's head and you crop it on the injured black quarterback's body.
Yeah.
This is just Fox. This is typical Fox, where there's sports, where there's news.
Yeah.
It's Fox.
Well, I tell you what, Big C, when you think about what happened, and I listened to some of the crowd in Buffalo, and they were just booing when Kaepernick came on. But I think if you're well-read, if you're just an ignorant person, you can't argue with ignorant people. But if you're well-read, even if you're a dumb person, just watch the documentary 13th. It chronicles how there are senators and the governors involved in creating the prison industrial complex that Eisenhower talked about, one of America's greatest presidents, and Lyndon Baines Johnson commissioned the Kerner Report. And it still shows that there's too much focus on incarceration of black men. Unless they're playing sports, Big C, or unless they're playing football, basketball, and baseball, or there's some actor in Hollywood. Pejoratively, the criminal justice system was designed to incarcerate black men. Once the Emancipation Proclamation was passed and they didn't have to give jobs to black men, how could you make money off them? You made them, it's part of the 13th Amendment. If you captured them and made them felons, then you would have free labor from the prison systems. And there's companies like Walmart and even Wells Fargo Bank, a lot of major corporations are a part of it, but they were never designed to incarcerate or to mass incarcerate white Americans. So when people get up in arms and they want to riot and they want to talk about what's wrong with Colin Kaepernick taking a stand, just have your kids watch 13. Have your parents watch it, the schools watch it. Just watch it, and then you'll understand if you want to be a part of the solution or a part of the problem, Big C. And speaking of part of the solution or problem, this segment is sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you, Big C? I'm telling you, you good old boys, I tell you what a buck could do for the California Lottery. At the Golden One Center in Sacramento, they spent $8 million on a glass bunny rabbit, Big C. $8 million. What could $8 million do if you bought $8 million of lottery tickets, Big C?
Well, you better hope somebody doesn't buy a $1 hammer charger and walk by.
Yeah. And outside the Golden One Center, it has a sign that says, "Do not touch the art." For $8 million, not only would I want to touch it, I want to lick it, Big C. $8 million. That's a lot of money for a glass rabbit. I just thought that was crazy. But as we get into what's even more crazy, and I love this time of year, we have some NFL football games to talk about, Big C. I think you only lost 2 picks on the week, Big C. I know we're not into betting, or what do you call it? Not betting, but what'd you say? Wagering?
We wager.
Okay, we wager, Big C.
It's almost like a barter system.
Okay, I understand. And the Tennessee Titans, they beat the Browns again. The Hapless Browns 28-26. And that was a game that both teams had a chance to win. Your thoughts on Tennessee? They actually look pretty good. Marcus Mariota not playing very bad at all. When you look at their first downs, Tennessee had 19 compared to Cleveland 16. But you said, I think Cleveland had like 7 different quarterbacks this season so far, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
Yeah, they're averaging a new quarterback every game.
Yeah.
And, as an organization, you can't win on a professional level doing that.
Yeah.
It's been a snake-bitten franchise, and we've talked about it. They were going to have a chance. They would be close this week. But Mariota has developed into a fine quarterback in his second year in the NFL, former Heisman Trophy winner, second overall pick in the draft by the Titans just a couple of years ago. But, Tennessee is one of those teams that have a strong running game, and that can take you deep into the NFL season, Charlton.
Yeah, and when you look at that, too, I know there's a lot of talk about coaches and coaches come in and win right away. I think for any professional coach, you got to give them 2 or 3 years. Don't just give them 1 year like Tomasula last year with the 49ers. He still walked away with $14 million. But just impressed with the way that game went. As far as first downs passing, they both had 13 first downs passing, but when it comes to rushing, Tennessee had 5 first downs rushing, and Cleveland only had one, Big C, one first down rushing the ball. Really got to turn some things around for them. And also, just to sidetrack again, on the 49ers defense playing so bad, I think that's the second most points they've given up since they've been out here in California. Jim O'Neil, he's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers, even though a lot of people put the blame on Kaepernick, ironically, for that loss.
Well, Charlton, if you go back to the Buffalo Bills' second game of the season when they lost to the Jets, Rex Ryan fired his defensive coordinator, his offensive coordinator.
You mean he didn't do it?
We've seen the defensive coordinator also been fired this season in the NFL, but, when you give up 45 points, Charlton, it's going to be hard to win a game.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be very hard to win a game, regardless of who's playing quarterbacks. If the Saints give up 45 points, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
And you got Drew Brees. If the Patriots give up 45 points, you're going to lose. And they have Tom Brady.
Yeah.
So when you look around the league at teams who've given up 40 points this year, they've all lost. The 49ers are not the first team to give up 40 points, and they're not the first team to lose giving up 40 points this year.
No, that's also true, Big C. And when you look at that passing back for the Tennessee and the Cleveland game, Klessler was actually 26 of 41, 336 yards. And then Mariota was 17 of 24, 164 yards, Big C. I also want to touch a little bit on a game that you kind of called, Big C. Kansas City was 15-2 after the bye week. Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches out there, at least in the regular season. And the Raiders, they were due for just being the old Raiders again. And I know under Jack Del Rio, they have more moxie. They take more chances, Big C. But this is a team that had everything lined up for it to kind of create some separation in the AFC West. But Kansas City came in and beat them 26-10. It wasn't even that close of a game. The Raiders scored on their first possession. After that, it was all Kansas City. Ironically, when you look at first downs, the Raiders had 16 first downs compared to Kansas City's 22. But when it comes to just playing a physical game, Kansas City had 11 rushing first downs. Oakland only had 3 rushing first downs. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, I think Trent Dilfer on ESPN, their pregame show on Sunday, had anointed Derek Carr as the next great quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
And normally when he touches something, it tends to go sour.
Yeah.
So if I'm a player, I'm going to ask Dilfer not to talk about me. Please leave me off your list. But, we talked about the emotions and the history of these organizations playing each other.
Yeah.
And that comes into factor, if nothing else. You can be talked to and remember what this rivalry has meant throughout the NFL. And we've always talked about Kansas City having the ability to go on a long run with consecutive wins. And they have to start at some point. And this is where they started last year when they were 1-4, Charlton.
Yeah.
They went on that 11-game win streak. So this is a team that has the veteran players that knows what it takes to win. The Raiders are still trying to find their way.
Yeah.
Carr will be a solid quarterback in the NFL. He is just not that quarterback of consistency yet, Charlton.
No, he's not there right now, but he does have he's has something going for him. It's an intangible thing, but it just seems like the Kansas City has won 4 of the last times against the Raiders. They just seem to have the Raiders numbers, but Raiders, they did the same thing they've always done. They don't close out when they have a chance, but I expect things are going to turn around, especially if their defense can get on track. They've averaged about 28 points a game, but this time the Chiefs held them to only 10 points. And also, Big C, another game that I'm looking at, the Patriots with the great Tom Brady, and they took on the Cincinnati Bengals in Foxborough, Big C. It was 35-17, and the Patriots got that game done. Your thoughts on Tom Brady? Always a leader, always someone that they can count on at the quarterback position. Even though he's great, they only had 1 loss without Tom Brady, but when he comes back, it makes them that much better, Big C.
Well, Charlton, you've heard of the scenario of the fox in the hen house?
Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady's a wolf in the hen house.
So he's like Donald Trump at a beauty pageant? Is that what you're saying?
Hey, he's like Donald Trump at a beauty pageant. He's a big dog. He's out there hunting.
He'll grab anything.
You think about what Brady has done, Charlton. 792 yards.
Yeah.
In 2 games, 7 touchdown passes, no interceptions.
Yeah.
That's the most yardage in the first 2 games of a quarterback starting in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
This man is a man on fire. You know, he reminds me of Denzel Washington's Man on Fire movie.
Yeah.
You know, he is just phenomenal. And you think about the cast of characters.
Yeah.
He didn't play with any of these guys, Charlton, during the preseason or in the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah.
But he came back, and I mean, we all heard about him being nude on the beach like you over in France.
That wasn't me, baby.
And I couldn't tell which one of you guys was apart, you know, when you were over it.
Yeah, I understand, Big C.
So, you know,
some things that happen on the beach stay on the beach, Big C.
you look at Brady. Brady has an attitude, and I love it. Even though he backs Donald Trump, but I guess that will give you an attitude once people find that out.
Maybe if his wife understands who Donald Trump is, she'll make him change his wife, Big C. Go right ahead.
When you look at the velocity that he's going out playing the game, Charlton, he's passing at 78% clip.
Yeah.
He's a 64% career passer.
Yeah.
He's at 78% right now, completion ratio. So he's completing 4 out of every 5 passes that he throws, Charlton. And he's averaging over 10 yards an attempt. Not a reception, but an attempt. So what he's doing, the defenses right now, and along with LeGarrette Blount in the backfield,
he's amazing.
Solid passing game.
Yeah.
They're a team to be reckoned with and has to be the favorites for the Super Bowl right now, Charles.
Well, when you think about his numbers, no one's really even talking about Andy Dalton, who was 21 of 31, 254 yards for Cincinnati. Brady's 29 of 35, 376 yards. But I think something that's so apparent right now, when you look at the total first downs, New England had 25, but Cincinnati, they had 20 first down, so not that far off, but they got doubled up on the score because the Patriots know how to close, Big C. And speaking of closing, I'm telling you, the Lions are on track to do something, Big C. They beat the Rams again. The Rams got to a very hot start, but it was the Lions 31-28 over the Rams up in Detroit. That's a team that's starting to make some noise. Your thoughts on that game, Big C?
Well, Detroit, you know, they made some moves. You know, Matthew Stafford has been maligned. We've written him like everybody else has, Charlton. This is a quarterback that you keep waiting to deliver.
Yeah.
You know, he was the number 1 overall draft pick several years ago in the NFL, and he hasn't gotten his franchise to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it was he and Calvin Johnson didn't have the greatest relationship, even though he was the greatest receiver in football.
Yeah.
Stafford had a little envy about it. But when you look at the receiving core right now, Golden State, I guess, is their go-to guy, formerly of Seattle, who is really having a breakout season for them. The defense is kind of waking up, but are the Rams, were they for real? You know, we haven't seen any Todd Gurley with the Rams. And if you're not going to run the ball in the NFL, that's where you're going to have problems. And we've seen some big upsets over the weekend. Yeah. And Charlton, they were led by the running game.
Yeah, you're right, Big C. The running game makes a big difference for everybody. And, I mean, we talk about spending $100 million on quarterbacks, but if you look at the first downs, both teams in this game, the Detroit Lions had 20 first downs, and the Rams had 23. When you look at rushing, the Rams only had 5 rushing first downs compared to Detroit. And when it comes to passing, the Rams had 16 first downs passing, and Detroit had 12. You would think it'd be the opposite of that for the team that won. They only had 5 rushing first downs, and then that's not enough to win a game. So it looks like the Lions are making a comeback, or maybe it's just the Rams showing their true colors again, Big C. I thought what was the game of the day, and we talked about this too, we both thought that it would go down to the wire up in the Great Northwest. When you look at a team that has everything going for it on offense, you look at the Atlanta Falcons. Look at a team that has everything going for it on defense. You look at the Seattle Seahawks. You know, Julio Jones, he was up there catching fish, Big C, just like he was down south. I think he's trying to follow you, Big C. But as far as catching fish, so he could have caught that last ball. It was a little bit difficult. Now, there's a lot of people, even Dan Quinn wants to send that tape on to the NFL officiating committee. But Sherman played the game and the ball the way you're supposed to if you're a defensive back. If everyone recalls the great Deion Sanders, arguably the best back in the history of the NFL, he did the same thing when he played for the 49ers against Michael Irvin and they had Dallas coming to San Francisco, he was always grabbing the arm, the one that you could not see with the officiating crew. By your eyes, Big C, maybe it was a pass interference, but that's not where you let the officials get in the way of the game. I thought it was just Sherman playing the game the way Pete Carroll teaches it. They can't call a foul or a penalty on every play. Your thoughts, Big C?
We're talking, if you look at the action of defensive backs in the NFL, and it's become very blatant, not just with Sherman, but with all defensive backs.
Yeah.
They're wrapping that off arm around the receivers, and the officials are allowing it. Yes, it shows up on a play like that at the end of the game, but it goes on all game. You're going to have to call it every play. It's like calling holding on offensive linemen, Charlton. As soon as a snap, you can throw a flag, okay? Because they're going to grab somebody.
Yeah.
You know, even if they grab themselves, they're going to grab somebody.
No, Donald Trump wasn't playing that game, Big C. That wasn't Donald Trump, but you get the idea when Donald Trump grabs people, it's a little bit different.
Well, when he talks about locker room banter, he could have done anything. He would have been an offensive lineman, but he likes to grab people.
That's funny.
That's the only position he's going to play.
Yeah,
when you think about it, I was looking at a couple games and I'm watching defensive backs on consecutive plays.
Yeah.
Putting that off arm around receivers as they're crossing the field to go up and back the ball away. And that's how they get that closure. They able to get that arm out, because when you're trailing a receiver, you don't have enough arm length, Charlton, to go get it. So you have to pull him back a little closer to you. And the officials allow this.
Oh, yeah.
So I understand how Atlanta was upset, because they felt that was a play that would have got them in field goal range where they would have potentially won the game. But the game has missed calls all throughout. We talk about that all the time. We talk about the officials, where they're lacking in calls. And if you go back, I believe it was 3 years ago up in Seattle, where there was an egregious call in the end zone on a Monday night game.
Against Green Bay.
Green Bay in Seattle, where somebody came down with the ball who didn't have the ball. The Pacific Northwest, and you said marijuana was legal.
No, I don't know if it's in Washington, Big C. Maybe it is. I don't know.
The state of Washington. It's legal in Seattle. So
okay. Is that why they call sleepers in Seattle? Is that what's called?
Situation with a receiver, and he said, the referees must have been smoking a joint.
And now we understand sleepers in Seattle. I thought it was what's her name? Meg Ryan. She was an actress.
Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal.
Yeah. Okay. Now we know what they meant, Big C. But just a great game. It may be a preview of the NFC Championship game. When you look at passing, Ryan was 27 of 42. He had 335 yards and a touchdown. Mr. Russell Wilson, Mr. Clutch, 25 of 37 for 270 yards and no picks, Big C. Something when I look at also in that game, when you look at total first downs, they were even at 22 first downs apiece for both teams, Big C. When it came to passing, Atlanta had 17 first downs passing. Seattle had 14. That tells you when you got to move the ball, it wasn't a rushing game. They both had low rushing first down. Seattle had 6 compared to Atlanta's 4 when it comes to running the ball for first downs. But just a great game. If you're a defensive back and you watch what Sherman does, he did the same thing against Crabtree when the 49ers were led by Kaepernick up in the NFC Championship game. He's a shutdown corner. He's a guy that can grab a hold of your arm because they teach you. You know, Big C, you good old defensive guys, you guys grab a lot anyway, Big C. In fact, Donald Trump, if he did play football, he would have been a defensive guy, Big C, because he likes to grab people.
You have to be tough to play defense. He's been an offensive line. He's been a cupcake. He's been like Conrad Dover, just dirty.
I understand.
He's been like Conrad back in the day. Conrad was so dirty, and that's who Donald Trump reminds me of playing against.
At least Donald Trump grabbed men, Big C. He didn't grab girls that couldn't defend themselves, okay? And also, speaking of grabbing people, this segment is sponsored by United Labor, guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. Also, we are endorsed by the American Heart Association and the American Cancer Society. We're trying to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help offer final expense and also life insurance to all of the unions under the AFL-CIO. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports, and we'll get you covered on that. Also, Big C back into the NFL. When you look at a game, another game that you picked, a lot of the national media, they were really riding high with Carson Wentz. They were flying high, let me say, with Carson Wentz, no pun intended, until they ran into the Redskins, and it was a 27-20 victory by the Washington Redskins. The Redskins really dominated this game, even though Kirk Cousins forgot what team he was throwing to a couple times, Big C. What do you think about the Redskins beating the Eagles, Big C?
Well, Charlton, they reeled off 4 consecutive victories.
Yeah.
And the Eagles now have 2 consecutive losses. But the real difference in that game was the running game of Washington. They rushed for over 190 yards between 2 backs. So they put the ball on the ground and they shredded it once vaunted Eagle defense that everyone was thinking about in the same neighborhood as the Minnesota Vikings, but they proved themselves that they weren't.
Did you say they're good as the Vikings?
It was really misleading. They had a pick six and a return kick, a touchdown. So that was 14 of Philadelphia points right there. So that offense was only able to put up one score. Yeah. So, we had talked about this, that people didn't have film on Carson Wentz. And what do you do in pro football is that you watch film, Charlton. Yeah. It's not uncommon to watch 2 to 3, 4 reels of film on the opposing team, Charlton, every day that you go into work, because you sit down and you break it down. Now, we only saw this guy, in one preseason game, Charlton, for about 5 minutes? Yeah. So there was no preseason tape. So when you think about the first 3 games of the season that the Eagles had success in, when you look at those passes, Charlton, were under 15 yards. Yeah. It's just the receivers had great run after the catch. Yeah. And so it made him look like a vaunted quarterback. Now, he'll probably still develop into a decent NFL quarterback.
Oh, he'll get better.
But he's not that yet. His stats are misleading. The wins are misleading. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eagles lose 3 or 4 to the next game.
Well, ironically, when you talk about Wentz, and people are jumping all over Wentz about how great he was. He was 11 of 22, 179 yards passing. Now, Kirk Cousins, 18 of 34, an interception and 263 yards passing.
Wait a minute, Charlton. You said he was 11 of 22?
Yeah, 11 of 22. That's
Colin Kaepernick had better stats than that.
Yeah, I know, Big C, but there's...
And accounted for more offensive points than what Wentz did. Yeah. That's Colin Kaepernick. Let's go on back to Wentz.
We'll get back to Wentz, the All-American boy. And also, when you look at first downs, Washington had 26 first downs to compare to the Eagles' 12 first downs. When it comes to rushing the ball, Washington had 10 rushing first downs, the Eagles had 5. And when it comes to passing, the Eagles only had 5 passing first downs compared to the Redskins' 11, Big C. Without those 2 picks that Cousins threw, then that game would not have been as close. I just want to make sure that people understand, if you can't play on defense, you're not going to win a lot of games. But the offense, a lot of times people are giving so much money and praise for not really being that effective. You're a quarterback and you pass for 5 first downs in 4 quarters, Big C. My math is not all that great, Big C, but I think that's just like 1 a quarter, if that makes any sense, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I like the analogy when they say, well, you can go out and find a running back anywhere, okay? Yeah. And so they devalue the value of an African-American running back in the NFL because we don't see white running backs in the NFL. Yeah. So they take the value out of the guys who control the game.
They don't want to pay them.
The teams that are winning in the NFL, Charlton, they all have a solid African-American running back. When you go back and you look at the wins over the weekend, you look at the Miami Dolphins, the Giants down in Miami, rushed for over 200 yards against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yeah. And this was a guy who was suspended in the first game of the season, but because you have this quarterback down there that has not been getting the job done, making $100 million a year.
How much?
All of a sudden you give the ball to this underpaid running back and you win a game.
So if he's making $100 million a year, he could buy like 10 of those rabbits and have $20 million left over. The 20 those rabbits in front of the Golden One Center, Sacramento, it cost $8 million.
For Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the taxpayers of Sacramento for the golden. It's not even gold, Big C. I mean, we're in the Golden State, but it's pink and purple. I just thought that was crazy for $8 million. Also, speaking of crazy, Jerry Jones. What's wrong with Jerry Jones? If you can't, stop giving Jerry Jones moonshine. I know you good old boys down south. You like to share drinks and all that stuff, but he still has this talk of shit. Romo will be the starting quarterback. All he has to do is learn to count, Big C. The Prescott has the Dallas Cowboys in first place. They're in first place in the NFC East. And not only they're in first place, he threw his first pick. He's surpassed Tom Brady for throwing the most completions without a pick. And now he threw a pick, and he still came back and threw 3 touchdown passes against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau Field against the great Aaron Rodgers, Big C. And they're still saying we don't know if it's going to be our starting quarterback because we don't know what it's like to win anymore, Big C. What's wrong with Jerry Jones, Big C?
What's wrong with Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones is from Arkansas. That's what's wrong with Jerry Jones. And he has a hard time swallowing that Zach Prescott. Then he made a good move finally in the draft. Yeah. He drafted a solid offensive player that can last and have a career in Dallas. He drafted 2 of them, ironically, this year. Yeah. In Ezekiel Elliott and Zach Prescott. Yeah. This is the best combination of rookies in the history of the NFL as far as what they've done through their first 6 games, Charlton, in their career. Yeah. And now he's talking about Tony Romo's our guy. Let Tony Romo be your guy, but go back into history, Charlton. Let me take you back about 12, 14 years ago. Yeah. there was a team up in the Northeast, I believe they were called the Patriots.
Yeah.
They had a quarterback, Drew Bledsoe, the number one guy, big money guy, got hurt against New York Jets.
Yeah.
They bring in this untalented rookie named Tom Brady.
I think I've heard of that guy. He's Donald Trump's friend. Is that what you're saying, Big C?
Yeah. You know, he's been hanging around the NFL for several years. Been to 6 Super Bowls, won 4 of them.
Yeah.
You know, but he wasn't highly touted coming out of college, like Dak Prescott was not highly touted coming out of college.
Yeah.
But once they both got into the starting lineup, all they did was win.
Yeah.
So if Jerry Jones has any moxie about him, call Bill Belichick and ask him how stupid is he.
What do you think?
For playing Tom Brady all these years after Drew Bledsoe got hurt.
Yeah.
They never put Bledsoe back in.
Well, I don't know if Belichick would answer that call, Big C. When you think about it, passing, it was Prescott, 18 of 27. He had that first pick of the year, 247 yards, and then Green Bay Rodgers, the guy who makes more money, he was 31 of 42, 1 interception, 294 yards, but he was totally outperformed by Prescott. When you look at the total first downs, they both had 24 first downs, the Packers and also the Cowboys, Big C. And rushing, Dallas had 7 first downs rushing, Green Bay 4 first downs rushing, and passing.
But Charlton, didn't we talk about the running game, how valuable the running game is in the NFL?
Yeah, very much so.
How it will make a team a winner. Green Bay has no running game.
Yeah.
They got 2 running backs that they depend on, and they're both hurt, Starks and Lacey.
Yeah.
Neither one of them are getting the job done. When we look at Aaron Rodgers, I mean, he's been a dominant quarterback his entire NFL career. But he has pedestrian numbers right now, Charlton.
Yeah.
His QBR rating was a 58 coming out of the weekend.
Yeah.
A 58 QBR rating. So when you talk about a quarterback performing, he's not playing within the system. You know, they talk about mobility, getting out of the pocket. Statistically, he was no better than Kaepernick. Yeah. When you look at what he did in the game, he may have had more yards, but he had no more offensive productivity. And Buffalo's defense is way better than Dallas's defense. Yeah. So what's wrong with Aaron Rodgers? He is not Aaron Rodgers we saw 4 and 5 years ago. Right. Is he on the downhill side? Because we know he's had a lot of concussions in his career. Yeah. What's wrong with Aaron Rodgers?
Well, I tell you what, too, when you look at the rushing game, when we talked about Ezekiel Elliott should have been maybe the top 1 or 2 draft picks coming out of the college football, he had 28 rushes, 157 yards, Big C, against this Packers defense. Here's a kid that was at Ohio State last year helping the Buckeyes win, Big C. And,
Charlton, but Jeff Goff and Carson Wentz, both franchise players than Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah. He has more victories than both of them combined, so don't worry about that.
See, the problem with you, Big C, you always like to talk about the facts. Can't you just be emotional and like people the way Donald Trump likes this contestants that are trying for, I think it was Miss Universe? Why did they cancel the Miss Universe?
No, the ones he really loved was the ones that were going for Miss Teen America. Let me just walk in the locker room with all these teenage girls.
Did you hear, and this is the guy trying to become the president, they have women coming out of the woodwork, Big C, but there were a number of them that said that he would approach them in their dressing rooms when they were half dressed as a grown, what's he, like 60-something years old? Isn't he almost 70?
You know, the most egregious thing is people, this even hasn't been talked about in the national media. Fox will never pick up on it. Yeah. When he was divorcing his first wife, Ivanka, after they filed for divorce, she filed papers on him that he had raped her. Yeah. He forcefully raped her after the divorce had been filed against him.
And no pushback.
I mean, he has a long history going back doing this. And so all the videotapes that you've seen on the news of him flaunting around in clubs with women, dancing, grabbing, kissing on them, that's not Donald Trump. That's somebody else. But I want to put this question to America, okay? Yeah. They were very quick to convict Bill Cosby when accusers came about.
Well, Bill Cosby's black, Bill. They have different skin color.
Private citizen, okay? Yeah. We got the man in his own words. We never heard any words from Bill Cosby on these scenarios. Yeah. Of these allegations. Yeah. But we got Donald Trump not being accused, but saying what he's done to women. Yeah. And what he will do to women when he gets around them. Yeah. Bill Cosby, we never heard that, but he's on trial. Yeah. Donald Trump is being said, well, you know, he's just a good old boy.
Yeah, they cover for him.
No, he's a felon. Yeah. That's walking around trying to become president of the United States. He has admitted that he's committed sexual assault on women in America. Now, if this was anybody in the documentary 13, they would be in prison, Charlton.
Well,
for a decade or more.
And a lot of people
but Donald Trump, They're saying it's legal for him not to pay taxes and commit sexual assault in America.
Yeah, it's just locker room and talking. I think that's agreed. For any man that has a mother or any man that has a daughter, I mean, if you want that kind of person around your wife or your mother, your daughter, you know, I mean, whatever works for you, works for you. Maybe some people swing that way, Big C. I just think it's really dangerous when you have someone who's almost 70 years old and he's talking about hanging around teenage girls and he's wanting to grab them in their crotch in private area, and people go, yeah, well, that was a long time ago. I mean, that's a crime, guys. And also, speaking of what we also need to pay attention to, I just want everyone to understand this one little footnote. No matter who you vote for, I hope you just read a little bit. I know a lot of people don't read anymore, Big C, but read. We're all caught up in sports. We're all mesmerized by sports. If Donald Trump were an African-American man, there's no way he would even be still in the running, Big C.
Well, Charlton, Herman Cain, let me take you back to the last presidential race, okay?
Yeah.
Herman Cain, a Republican African-American candidate.
Yeah.
There were sexual allegations came out about him. 1.
Yeah.
Not 5, not 10, 1.
Yeah.
He had to withdraw from the campaign.
Yeah, but he's black, Big C. I mean, race doesn't matter.
He had to withdraw from the campaign over one sexual allegation.
He's black, Big C. Race doesn't matter in America. So when Colin Kaepernick is saying we want justice for everybody, and Tim Wise, which is a Jewish author, wrote a book about white skin privilege, even our mainstream society, it's like they get offended and they have such consternation when Black Lives Matter, or if you point the camera on themselves. I just want to point out this one thing because we love sports, but it goes back to the great Emmett Till when he was lynched and murdered, not lynched, but beaten and murdered for whistling at a Caucasian woman, and it was done by white society that did that. There's no one that condemned white society for that. He did it with impunity.
We talk about a lot of egregious things on this show, okay? Yeah. And they talk about sexual improprieties, okay?
Yeah.
There's been more sexual impropriety on black women from white men throughout history.
The Middle Passage. Yeah.
Than any black man versus a white woman.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of laws and bills have been passed in this country. It's talking about the veracity of a black man towards a white woman, but yet white men have raped black women throughout the history of America.
For centuries, yeah, for centuries.
And it's never been a crime.
Yeah.
It's just like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
His sexual assaults are not a crime. We had the kid at Stanford that was a swimmer.
Yeah.
Who raped a woman. He got 6 months and was out in 3.
Yeah.
Because he was a white athlete, Charlton.
And for anyone who doubts that, just watch the documentary 13th. Even before you defend whatever group, whatever right or wrong, whatever law, watch the documentary 13th. It's only an hour and 38 minutes, which I think an hour and 38 minutes gives you a chance to have, like a gallon of moonshine, Big C, you could open down south.
We only going to drink a quart and a half.
Okay. And this segment is also sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports will get you covered. Also, I'm going to get back to a little bit of football, Big C. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears. It was the Jacksonville 17-16 over the Bears. And there's still people saying that if the Bears quarterback Cutler, for some reason, he's going to be traded to another team that's going to pay him $20 million to also lose. Your thoughts, Big C? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, Jay Cutler looks lackluster, like he doesn't care about football, whether he's on the field or off the field, Charlton.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of the worst quarterback signings and trades in the history. I mean, you think about it. When you look at the history of Denver, they let Jay Cutler go.
Yeah.
And who else did they let go last year? Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler, yeah.
So there's something about that Rocky Mountain high air that lets them know who's not a quarterback, okay?
Yeah.
So they let both of these guys go, and Jay Cutler has had no success in Chicago. Brock Osweiler was like Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Let me get off to a fast start, and then reality just sets in. But these guys know who I am.
Yeah.
I'm nothing, and I'm scared in the pocket.
Yeah.
And so they've both been run down. I mean, Carson Wentz was sacked 5-6 times.
Five times yesterday, yeah.
That comes from lack of mobility and people figuring out what you're doing off.
No, wait a minute, Big C. All the pundits were saying that this guy is the next Joe Montana. He's the next, he's the next Steve Young in the pocket can run around. The next round of Cunningham. They were all saying how great he would be. Here's a guy that gets sacked 5 times in one game, Big C. One game. And I just want to know that these pundits if they'll come out and say that they were wrong or that they were trying to give him what's called a white privilege when it comes to assessing quarterbacks, Big C.
Well, what's his record in the last 2 games, Charlton?
Yeah, he hasn't won the last 2, but you always talk about the facts. Why can't you just be emotional like everybody else, Big C?
So he's gone to 3-2 after 5 games and getting ready to go to 3-3 after 6.
Yeah, but it's not his fault, Big C. It's somebody else's fault.
It's everybody else.
Everybody else's
like
fault.
Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick, you blame him for everything.
Now, it's all his fault because he has an afro. I heard someone on a radio station in Northern California call themselves the sports leader. By the way, they opened up the show by "Welcome to the show, Big C." I wonder where they got that from, Big C. But they got so lost on. They brought on some pundit who said that Kaepernick actually played well, considering his first game after 3 surgeries. They had nothing else to talk about, so they started talking about his hair, Big C. They started talking about his afro as opposed to the fact that he threw the longest touchdown pass for this season for the 49ers, Big C.
You're talking about his afro. That's racial connotation.
Well,
why don't you just go on and call him some other name? Because that's basically what you're saying. You're trying to say it politely. But you're getting racial. You've been racial about the flag thing to start with.
Yeah.
Now you're getting racial about his looks.
Yeah. Well,
at some point, when you want to talk about being an American, being a respect for an American, when you listen to these talking heads on these shows, Charlton, they're spewing racism all the time.
Yeah.
They're spewing injustice all the time.
And
it's acceptable because it's been the good old boys club for years. If you say the wrong thing, then you're out. But as long as you're racial, you can stay in.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And that's probably why it won't change in a long time, because it's acceptable behavior to certain people in our society. And also, speaking of behavior, I think you're right again about the Giants and the Ravens. What a great game in New York. Beckham over 220 yards receiving. The Giants beat the Ravens in a great game, 27-23. I want to look at the fact that both teams did a good job moving the ball, and the Giants had 16 first downs passing, and the Baltimore Ravens had 10 first downs passing. So give up to Flacco for a better game.
How many games do you watch and all you do is see a camera focused on one receiver? Julio Jones is probably the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
Did Fox isolate a camera on him on the sidelines all game long?
No.
But, they put these antics on Beckham. Now, good, bad, or indifferent. Beckham's an outstanding receiver.
Oh, he's amazing.
But Fox makes the circus go on.
Yeah.
Okay? They're the ones running the 3-ring circus. If you don't put the camera on them, you don't see him sitting over there bowing in front of a net, hugging a net. I mean, these acts, and that's what it is. It's an act.
Yeah.
The game is big. Focus on the fans. Focus on the play. But don't show me some player on the sideline creating a circus out of it, Charlton.
Yeah.
So I blame the media for all of what Beckham does. And they talk about his outlandish act. The media is the only one showing it to us.
Yeah, that's the only way you see it.
He's the one isolating on him, Charlton, to make it look this way.
Yeah.
You don't do that to Julio Jones. You didn't do it to Golden Tate the other day in Detroit. You don't do it to Antonio Brown on the sideline. He doesn't have a camera on him. He's one of the top 3 receivers in the NFL.
Yeah.
But don't do this. Larry Fitzgerald never gets a camera on him in Arizona, and they're playing tonight.
Yeah.
But this is Fox News, just like Fox Sports.
Yeah.
Just like Fox News.
Yeah.
Let's make a buffoonery of something.
Well,
instead of focusing on the true story. And that's the same thing they do with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
They don't focus on the true story. They want you to believe what they say instead of your ears.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, I think Richard Pryor said, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes, Big C? And back to the game, you look at the passing totals for the Ravens. It was Flacco with 26 of 48, 307 yards. Manning had an excellent game. He was 32 of 46. He threw 2 interceptions, but he had 403 yards passing against that Ravens defense.
Well, you know you're going to get interceptions from Eli. I mean, if he don't do anything else but walk on the field, he's going to throw the ball to the opposing team every week.
Well, he definitely he's lit it up for the Giants in that game. They overcame some turnovers. But just impressed with the way that Beckham played in that game, really gives him a deep threat when he has the ball. And he's also a guy that can get a lot of yards after the catch. Reminds me of a faster version of Jerry Rice and how good he is at catching the ball and getting yards after the catch, Big C. Also, this final segment is sponsored by BeneathHisWingsFoundation.org and also Seawide NN Entertainment. When it comes to promotions, contact Cynthia Evans. She's the best in Northern California. And Big C, also, I want to touch on, we talked about this game down in Miami. Roethlisberger's injured again. He had his knee scoped, and the Steelers are not the same team without Big Ben starting. If he can't get back into the fold, Big C, for the Ravens, I know that, not for the Ravens, for the Steelers, Big C, I know they have a bye week. It may take him 2 to 3 weeks. but they're not the same team without Big Ben, Big C. Your thoughts on the Steelers?
Well, it may take longer than that. It's a meniscus tear on the inside of his knee, Charlton. I mean, they took him to surgery right away.
Yeah.
But, Ben's such a large individual, and mobility is a big part of his game.
Yeah.
And you really don't want to rush him back because we're talking about a career of Teddy Bridgewater. We saw what happened to him. The Vikings put him on IR right away.
Yeah.
This is an injury that's going to linger for at least a month with Ben Roethlisberger. You won't see him back before at least the next 5 games, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's going to take a while to recoup. But this is a team, you just get Le'Veon Bell back. You think that you're moving offensively.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you lose Ben. Landry Jones is the backup quarterback, but that's what he is. He's the backup quarterback, Charlton. He's had very limited time playing in live games in the NFL. So this is a team, and we saw when the defense got beat up last week by the Dolphins.
Yeah. Well,
giving up well over 200 yards rushing on the ground. So this is the team that right now has to find an identity.
Yeah.
And can Landry Jones pull the wagons together on offense? He has a great receiving core, but will he have the poise in the pocket? He's only played the preseason to be effective offensively.
Well, I tell you what, without Big Ben, the Steelers are not one of the top teams in the AFC, Big C. But
they're
even
not even one of the top teams in their division,
yeah.
Charlton. They now come back to the pack.
Yeah,
they're no better than anybody else in the Central Division, Charlton.
Yeah, he makes a big difference for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Terrible times or not, he was 19 of 34, 2 interceptions, 189 yards. And in fact, he was injured on the pick when he was trying to make a stop. And also, Tannehill from Miami, he was 24 of 32 for 252 yards. But I hope that he's okay. I hope he's going to be better because I love seeing him play. He's such a tough leader for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, Charlton, he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Hall of Famer, yeah.
But people don't realize Ben has been to 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
He's won 2 of them.
Yeah, he has.
So when you think about it, he's only second to active quarterbacks to Tom Brady in the NFL as far as Super Bowl appearances in the past decade and a half.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. So obviously they got to have him healthy in order to be competitive. You look at another great game score-wise. You look at the Carolina Panthers. They're really on hard times right now, going down south and playing New Orleans, and Drew Brees had a great game. But this is a game that went down to the wire. And we talked about it on the show, in the pregame show, Big C, how New Orleans would find a way to win that game, and they did it with a field goal. Just your thoughts on what's wrong with the Carolina Panthers. I know they had a lot of turnover in the offseason, but your thoughts on Carolina's problems.
Well, everybody's calling it a Super Bowl hangover, Charlton, and it's not offensively. You think about it, they're scoring over 30 points a game in the past couple games, offensively with Cam at quarterback.
Yeah.
But this defense is just atrocious. Up front, the front 7 is basically the same.
Yeah.
But that secondary, when you got 2 rookie quarterbacks in the NFL, now the last time that was done in the NFL, Charlton, was the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Starting Eric Wright and Ronnie Lott on the corners before Ronnie was moved to safety.
Yeah.
Bill Walsh's 3rd year in San Francisco. He drafted those guys and built a Super Bowl championship team, but the receiving corps now in the NFL are much greater than what they were in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And so to go out and play 2 rookie quarterbacks against veteran NFL receivers, that's like putting high school kids against college kids, Charlton.
Yeah.
You're just not going to win.
Oh, that's like...
And that's what has happened with the Carolina Panthers. They let Josh Norman go over money.
Yeah.
But sometimes money's worth some victories.
Yeah.
When you put it in the right position in the NFL, Charlton. You can't always just pay all the quarterbacks and think that they're winning the games. Cam has put up numbers, but the defense is giving up greater numbers.
Yeah, that's true, Big C. And also, the final thing we'll talk about, your good old boys down south. I know you love Alabama football. When you look at the coaches poll that came out for college football, running down the top 10, the Crimson Tide looked very good. They really took hold of Tennessee and beat them pretty good over at Neyland Stadium, 49-10. Alabama's number 1. Ohio State had a close win over Wisconsin.
What did you just say, Charlton?
Well, just
what did you just say?
Alabama's.
You said USC was what?
No, I said Alabama's number 1, Big C.
Oh, okay. Just want to make sure I have some clarity there.
Well, Alabama's number 1, Ohio State's number 2. I just want to get your thoughts.
And what was USC ranked?
Well, right now they're not in the rankings right now, but they'll be back.
So we always talk about the real football.
We're talking about. I'll owe you some moonshine. I'll cop to that. I owe you some moonshine, Big C. But I want to get your thoughts. Alabama and the great Nick Saban. Also, ESPN. They were playing some hip hop music behind their highlights of Alabama and Tennessee. I wonder where they get that from, Big C. Usually it's a honky tonk music, but with Big C Sports, they got the number 1 show in the universe, Big C Sports, according to your good old boys down south. But even ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports, they're playing hip-hop rap music behind their broadcast highlights, Big C. Where did they get that from, Big C?
Well, when you go to a couple of them Southern boys cringing at their music, Jonathan, when you think about what Alabama did to Tennessee, and we talked about that 2 weeks ago against Tennessee and A&M.
Yeah.
That, you know, their luck was going to run out. You could only live vicariously that way for so long, and that emotion gets spent. But Tennessee is one of the most beat-up teams right now in college football, Jonathan. Yeah. They've lost so many starters in the first 6 weeks of the season, so you kind of feel sympathy for that team. But Alabama, you know, you talk about the professional team of the state of Alabama, that's them, the Crimson Tide.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even let the NFL come in because they probably couldn't compete.
Yeah, that might be true,
you know,
Big Z.
when you think about this team and what Saban has done, but Lane Kiffin has changed the landscape offensively at Alabama.
Yeah.
So it's always been a dominant run program, okay?
Yeah.
They ran for a couple of 100 yards again on Saturday.
Yeah.
But they got this young rookie quarterback that, you know, he's developing.
Yeah.
But Lane Kiffin puts so much diversity in the offense. It's not just straight ahead now. There's a lot of reverses, a lot of motion in the offense in Alabama, and they've always played tough, hard-nosed defense. And they got all the first-place votes in the AP, Charlton. So they're that team that we thought they were at the start of the season.
Well, speaking of how good Alabama looks, and you look at their athletes, it's still amazing to me when we talk about, everyone should see the documentary 13th and Race Matters, according to Tim Wise, and, you know, all these great things that happen in our society. It happens after some friction. And for the good old boys that don't think that race is an issue, and when Kaepernick is trying to say that Black Lives Matter and they want to boo the guy for saying Black Lives Matter, there was a time not too long ago, Big C, that they would not allow black men to play college football in the Southeastern Conference, Big C. I mean, do people think that never existed, Big C, or are they just naive?
Kentucky 4 in 1966, Charlton, the first African-American players to play in the SEC, and they were the only African-American players in the SEC, Charlton, 1966. So when we think about that, that was 50 years ago.
Yeah.
50 years ago, so the integration in that conference has not been that long, but when you look at it now, Charlton, and you look at these teams in the SEC, if you look at the dominant teams, they're all predominantly black.
Yeah.
I mean, they're sprinkled with some Caucasian players, but they're predominantly black teams. And when you look at the skill positions, the power positions on the lines and stuff, you look at the African-American players, Charlton, that are on these teams.
Yeah.
And on game day, you think about them as your neighbor, your best friend.
And see, that's the thing.
But how do you treat them the rest of the week,
when they're not in the uniform? Yeah.
How are they looked upon the rest of the week?
Yeah.
And we've seen that, you know, at the University of Colorado back in the 80s where the police used to ride around with a program to identify the black players, who to look for.
Yeah.
You know, but that's how college sports is, and that's how society is. It's not equal. It wasn't equal then. It's not equal now.
And that's why
it's favoritism for certain reasons.
Well, and that's why everyone, whether you're good or boy or intelligent, it doesn't matter. You should always watch the documentary 13th because I think it's more poignant, and it kind of, there's some things you just cannot deny when you see it with your own eyes, unless you're Donald Trump, of course. But if you see the documentary 13th and you realize, unless you're a black athlete, we've talked about this for years, if you're a black athlete and you're being treated with a lot of praise and respect and love and care and concern, that's great. But what happens when you take off the uniform? Then we become prey to the criminal justice system, and it's by design. It's not by accident. I've never seen more drug use when I was in college until I hung around Caucasian students. None of them had stories of being incarcerated or racially profiled. They did their marijuana, their weed, their LSD, their cocaine. Never went to jail for it, Big C.
Cocaine, okay, that's a criminal offense.
Yeah.
If you use cocaine powder, that's a rehabable offense.
Yeah.
You go to treatment. But if you use crack, you go to prison. If you use cocaine, you go to treatment. Yeah. The cocaine is the choice of white society, Joe.
Yeah.
That powder that you can sniff up your nose.
Yeah.
Crack was a choice of people who did not have the economics to take cocaine.
Yeah, and see,
so they went to prison.
Yeah.
You took the lower end, put them in the prison. You took the higher end and gave them counseling and said you'd be okay. You can keep using it.
Yeah.
Just don't use crack.
And see, that's something that I just want people, as we wrap up this show, I want people to keep that in mind when you're booing and calling Kaepernick for saying that Black Lives Matter. He did not create the prison industrial complex, but it's so real when you're not watching sports in uniform, whether it's football, basketball, and baseball, whether you're Jim Nantz or Phil Simms or Bob Costas or any of those guys that say nothing when the microphone's on, but when they think the mic is off, they're like Donald Trump. They're grabbing people by the crotch and all that garbage, Big C. I just want life to be fair for everyone, for men and women. Doesn't matter who you are, and that's why Charlton Big C Sports is the number one sports show in the universe. And Big C, I know we have baseball going on tonight. We have some NFL football going on tonight. The NBA is starting up again. If you want to see an $8 million bunny rabbit, come to the Golden One Center in Sacramento, California. $8 million for a pink and purple bunny rabbit. It just doesn't make any sense. It is about 10 feet tall, Big C. Maybe that's why it costs so much money. But I just want to get your last thoughts on the baseball playoffs going on, who you like so far, Big C, and also your thoughts on who has a chance to get to the World Series based on what we've seen so far, Big C.
Well, Charlton, you really have to be impressed with the Cleveland Indians under Terry Francona. This is a team that has only allowed 9 runs thus far in the postseason against Texas and against Toronto. When we talk about some of the biggest batting teams in baseball, they've gone out and they've just been dominant. This pitching staff has just had everyone in check. High strikeout numbers, and I think there's some mojo going on in Cleveland other than on the football team, because we look at what happened with the Cavaliers in the NBA, and now we look at what's going on with the Indians. But Terry Francona knows how to win. He won 3 titles in Boston, so this is a manager who can get the job done. Clayton Kershaw, he's been accountable for 5 victories for the Dodgers here in the postseason.
Yeah, he's amazing.
They won 5 games. He's appeared in all 5 of them.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of magic with him. If the Cubs plan on winning, and they got to take 3 out there in L.A.
Yeah.
When they go out there, there's going to be 2 in Chicago. But if they don't win 3 in L.A., they may not make it to the World Series, Charlton. But they're going to have to face Kershaw again out in L.A.
Well, I'll tell you, out in L.A., it's going to be great for baseball. And we'll run out the top 10 in college football. Alabama, number 1, followed by Ohio State, number 2. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Michigan. Number 5, Washington Huskies. Number 6, Texas A&M. They play Alabama this week, followed by number 7, Louisville, number 8, Baylor, number 9, Nebraska, and number 10, Wisconsin. 2 tough losses from Wisconsin against Ohio State and also Michigan. And as we say, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, you can follow Charlton and Big C Sports, the number 1 show in the universe, according to Big C and his good old boys. We're the number 1 media network in the iHeart Radio network. And also, I want to tell you, there's no room for domestic violence, no room for grabbing women by the crotch, Donald Trump. Let's keep our women safe. If you see any woman going through trouble, just call 911. Please, let's keep our women safe. And as we say, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.